Hey everyone, and welcome to our, I was going to say, a very special Black Friday sale. Not very special, we'll be doing this all week, but at least our Black Friday sale. In this stream, I'm going to be sculpting something. I'm not actually entirely sure what I'll sculpt. Unlike the other streams we've done this week, well, I've done this week, this is going to be in ZBrush and not in Nomad. It's fun to vary this up a little bit as well and try different things. And also, you know, Nomad is still, at least for desktop, is still very much in production, while ZBrush very much is not. So this is, you know, in more early development rather, is what I'm trying to say. ZBrush is quite a refined software. So it's a lot of fun to sculpt in ZBrush. It's a lot of fun to sculpt in Nomad, and just a lot of fun to sculpt in general. So that's what I'll do now. So if people in the comments can just confirm the audio and everything is working, I will be assuming that is, unless I hear anything else, then that would be great. So I'm starting with very, very loose space here. The reason for this is simply that it's just a lot easier to get started with something if you don't have to fundamentally figure out the core anatomy. This already, even though this doesn't actually have any direct anatomy, it still has a lot of anatomy. It's just hidden. So the anatomy is, you see basically the more fundamental part of it instead of the specific shapes. So at this point, I'm literally just doodling. I'm not sure where I'll take this guy. I might just have some fun with this and see where he goes. I often just experiment with things, just playing around with proportion, just going a bit crazy with these things, and just seeing where we take us. I really like just doodling, just going around here and just sketching. We do have a Discord. We have a Flipnomos Discord. I'm not sure if you can just search on Discord or for other Discords. I think you can. If so, you can just search for Flipnomos and that should pop right up. If not, I'll send you a link. Hey, back in ZBrush today? Yes, sir. We it's nice to sculpt in Nomad, but it's fun to sculpt in other software as well. I mean, ZBrush is just, for desktop at least, ZBrush is just better than Nomad in pretty much every single way. Nomad is obviously a great software, but it's there is no way that something like Nomad, that's basically, as far as I understand it, is in beta for a desktop, is going to be better than something that's been live for like well over 20 years, like ZBrush. But yeah, feel free to hit me with your questions as we're going about this as well, and I'll do my best to answer. I'm literally just experimenting with the shape. I actually have no idea where I'm going. I think it's really fun to do it like this, just playing around with shapes, seeing where it takes us, seeing what eventually pops out of this block of marble that I'm so ruthlessly carving away at. I really like this matte cap here, Monster Clay one. It's something they added fairly recently, and it just makes the model look nice. It's not one of those that's the best in terms of diagnostics, because it doesn't show you everything, but that's also a good thing in a way, because it means that you're not going to under-sculpt something. If you have something like the red wax, everything is going to be under-sculpted because it shows you everything. So you take this into, you bake in normal maps format, you take it into Engine or into a render engine, and you're going to see that barely anything is visible because it's just too intense. I gotta say, Dynamesh is significantly better than the voxel in Nomad. I think this is because it's all quads in Nomad, and it's in Blender as well. I think it's using the exact same algorithm, while here it uses a lot of triangles. This is just a lot more conforming to the shape than what's happening in Nomad. But you know, it does fundamentally the same thing. I wouldn't pick software based on this. See if I have a link to. I don't have Discord open, so I won't be sending a link to that right now. I don't want to open Discord during the stream. It's always fun to see what's coming out of the ball of clay here. There's always something interesting. Any tips on networking online? I actually have a really good tip here. This is going to sound maybe a little silly, But the single best tip you can, like I have, is honestly just post awesome art. The networking online is really pointless unless you have something to contribute to with to other people. If you're just networking just to network, meaning you're getting followers or you're adding people on LinkedIn and such, like that by itself is literally pointless. Like that adds nothing to it, because what is a follower? What is a connection there? If somebody adds me to on LinkedIn, like that does nothing for anyone, right? But my big tip here is basically do cool work and people will find you. This doesn't have to be that you're just doing cool sculpts. This can also be that you're posting tutorials. This is one of the ways I got started. Obviously that led to Flip Normals, right? Eventually, but I did a lot of just tutorials. Whenever I learned something new, I would just post about it, make a video, make a blog post, make a forum post about it. And over time, people notice that stuff. People do tend to, yeah, even online, even in this the big world of social media today, people do genuinely notice when people are consistent about that stuff. I genuinely think it's practically pointless to quote unquote network unless you have something to contribute with. I see this sometimes. I go to events or something like maybe it's relating to 3D. There are some here in London, and people are like, all right, yeah, you want to connect on LinkedIn? Like, yeah, sure. That's like getting my email. That does nothing, right? Like I'm almost having a hard time explaining how pointless that act is by itself. Networking needs to serve a purpose, and that purpose often is you eventually getting a job, right, from that person, or like it's professional connections are really about getting the next job in many ways, or helping you in the job and such. So it really truly is about, like, networking fundamentally is about basically making friends, and you going up to somebody and basically going, hey, you want to be my friend, does absolutely nothing. But you being a cool dude online and sharing your things, sharing your art, showing cool progress is fantastic. Even if the progress, or even if the art you're showing isn't good, or it's not to a level where it's fantastic. Let's say you're in first year of university, where like there's no way anyone is doing any good work in first year of university, right? It's just not really a thing. Then you still just post your work online, and if you're ferocious when it comes to posting progress, people are going to be like, damn, this guy here or this girl here, they're really, really, really going for it, and people notice. When you work in a PC, what would you say is your best work example? It's a tricky one. One of the coolest projects was definitely when I worked on the Xenomorph team on Alien Covenant. That was the last thing I worked on at NPC. I finished the retopology on my very last day of the body, and then I went to DNIC. So I knew I had 3 weeks to finish that whole thing. So I did that as fast as I could. So that was definitely one of the coolest projects. It was also because it was a Xenomorph, which is one of the coolest things I could possibly think of. I love the Alien movies, so that was fantastic. One of the most fun ones was actually Pirates of the Caribbean 5. That was when I worked on, if anyone has seen it, then there are some ghost sharks in it. They were cold ghost sharks. They were like zombie sharks. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that as well. It was just like sculpting zombie sharks. There were 3 of them, and they're really dry, and then they get thrown in water and turn into sharks. That was super cool. I also worked on some of the pirates as well, on their outfits, so had to really turn them into spooky pirates. That was a lot of fun. One of the cool ones as well was a film called Monster Calls, which is genuinely the only good movie I've actually worked on. I think most of them were not very good, but Monster Calls was actually really good. Read the book, fantastic story, really, really touching. I really enjoyed that one. I did engineering city building at Montreal. Awesome. That's cool. Just gonna get some teeth in on this guy here. I have a set of pre-made teeth that I like to throw into ZBrush. I'm too old to build teeth now. Like I don't have time for that. That is for somebody else to do. So I really like teeth. I really like teeth for the sentence. I really like pre-made teeth. I really like stuff that basically speeds up my work, and this is just something that just takes quite some time to do. Regarding the networking thing I was talking about, never thought about it that way, but I agree. Getting an extra follower connection on LinkedIn does feel like it's doing nothing. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Like borderline pointless. I get a lot of requests on on LinkedIn from people, and cool. Yep, that's it. Now we are connected on LinkedIn. Pretty cool. Okay, so ZBrush is bugging out a little bit now. There is something here. There is a window here. I think that's is missing because it's there. We go. Yeah, it's it didn't want to import the FBX file. Let's do here FBX. Let's try this again. File imported. Hey, there we go. Cool. Great. We just import a lot of stars. That's pretty good. There we go. Then we can just merge visible. There we have our teeth as well. It adds so much character the moment you put in teeth. Like, I have no reference for this guy here. I literally don't know where I'm taking him. Like I said, I'm just throwing him in there and seeing what we end up with. Let's see this. Check this out. See how much character there is in him right away, just by adding some teeth, right? You know, and even you can do this, right? You can move the teeth up. You can move teeth down, just like this. And this makes him look a bit creepier. This makes him look a bit friendlier. Like, there's just so many things you can do here. Do you think the new UI for ZBrush is going to be like the iPad version? I have no insider knowledge about this whatsoever, but I'm almost certain that it will, just based on the teasers that they have sent. So pretty excited about that, to be honest. I think the ZBrush interface is a little hard to deal with, isn't it? It's a little old, a little bit following no UX conventions whatsoever. A little bit stuck in an experimental stage. So yeah, not loving the ZBrush interface whatsoever. I like ZBrush despite the UI. Also, as a reminder, today is Black Friday. Hey, and we have a really nifty Black Friday sale where we have I think it's like over 50,000 products on sale now. So we have tons of cool stuff. So yeah, a lot of really cool ones. This is one that's really fun. This is just a $1 product. Crazy low. It's let me show you this one. I'll send a link to this one here. This is the brush kit I'm actually using right now. I get a lot of answers about this. Or get a lot of questions about this one here. Where which brush am I using here? And this is a brush I made myself, and this is available in this brush kit. So, but we have tons of tutorials on sale as well. So this is the biggest sale of the year, and we have the summer sale and we have the Black Friday sale, and that's kind of it. We have some smaller ones here and there, but this is the next one until it's warm and bright again outside. Unless I live in the southern hemisphere, then it's warm and bright there right now, and that doesn't count. I wish ZBrush had a 2D editor to modify the alphas like Liquify. That would be pretty nice. It does not. It doesn't really have an interface for modifying the alphas in any way. You have to turn them into planes and such. It's all right. It works if you know what you're doing, but it's a bit annoying to work with. I don't know. I like this guy. Again, not sure where I'll take him. He looks a bit too human. I'm gonna mess him up a little bit. Can't have that. Can't have a human on a heading stream. Need to turn him into creature. Gonna just sharpen his teeth a little bit like so. He has a bit of an underbite, so we could do that as well. Auto groups. There we go. We can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. So much character in people right away the moment you add a bit of the moment you mess your teeth up a little bit, or just add teeth, anything like that. But yeah, the brush here, the one I'm using, I call it like HS Clay or something. I think it's called Build Up FN in the actual kit. It's the same one. That's the one I use for everything now. Like it's fully replaced my regular brush, and it's one of those I sat for quite some time actually trying to get some nice alphas, trying to create some nice alphas, trying to create a new clay brush, and then I just doodled in Photoshop, and I accidentally found this pattern, or I created this pattern, and it took just a few minutes to do. But it's such a handy pattern for this. I modified the alpha a little bit, or the brush a little bit as well, but fundamentally it's the clay builder brush just with this alpha, which is it was literally the first thing I did when I got to Nomad, because I needed my alpha, I needed my brush, because it's such a handy one, because it's textured, but it's not overly textured, and it builds volume, but not to an insane degree. You kind of someone about a scar and a heading stream. That is true. We are probably going to be adding a scar to this guy after some time, because otherwise, what is the point? Yeah, here's a UX thing, right? Like by Earth 355. Why do ZBrush guys make the surface noise tab not able to do full screen? I don't know why it's so small. Yep, that's when I say UX issues, I don't mean like the colors of the interface or stuff like that. I mean like deeper fundamental conventions, like stuff not being consistent, like a lot of features being in the C plugins tab, a lot of things having their own interface. Like if you're doing the, what is it called? Polygroup, it is a whole different software basically, right? Like there are a lot of things that like it doesn't feel consistent. And this is what I'm talking about. Like ZBrush is absolutely fantastic as a software in what it can do, but the implementation of things, like even if you like you want to use the deformers or whatever, you have to go in here. The hell is that? Like, why do you? This makes no sense whatsoever. Like the fact that it's here. The way you can figure out that it doesn't make any sense is that there is no way you're going to accidentally find these features, or if you're being told that, hey, there are some new deformers in ZBrush, there's a whole new set of features like that. Try to find them. You will not find them. You're not going to go, oh, it's in the move tool, in the gizmo, and then it's going to be here. Like it just makes no sense in like in terms of any UX conventions. But I'm wondering in the new update that if they're killed edit mode or not, because that's also like a complete nonsense thing, right? Like that serves absolutely no purpose. I know that that's, as far as I know, pretty much gone on the iPad. I think it's gone on the iPad. I made a video about this last year, right? I just seem to remember that I don't think there's any way to get edit mode back. And also, there was literally no purpose to edit mode. Not today, right? Maybe when I started with ZBrush, there were still some weirdos using edit mode for certain things, but like it serves practically zero purpose. Yeah, the Gunshot is saying that the craziest thing to me is the stuff being alphabetical. Like, yeah, like again, complete nonsense. There's a lot of good stuff here, but yeah, I think they got pretty complacent, and now when they're owned by Maxon, they're actually doing some changes. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to say that being acquired by a big company like Maxon is a good thing. I have no idea what's going to happen long term, but at least this is the first time I'm actually seeing some changes happening. Before they've added a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of cool stuff being added to ZBrush, no doubt, but this is the first time I've seen any like actually things happening to it, like things have been requested, like Python support. Python support is huge because it means you can make your own tools. C-script is obviously not a real thing, right? Like you can do some stuff with C-scripts, but it's nothing compared to something like Python. So if that's done correctly or like properly, then we can get a lot of cool tools for ZBrush coming up. But yeah, ZBrush is fantastic, obviously. Like I love sculpting in ZBrush. There is still nothing that's close to ZBrush when it comes to sculpting. Like even like, you know, I've been doing streaming, and I've been streaming in Nomad the last few days, and the sculpting there is good, but it's not ZBrush, right? Like it's just not. On the iPad though, it's actually closer, I would say. ZBrush is still ahead of it, but at some point it's not just what you can do with it in terms of pure sculpting. It's also what's a holistic view on the software, like what other things can you do in the software as well. And there's so many cool things, like for instance here I want to give this guy some horns. Just forget about that compared to using the tube feature in Nomad. It's just objectively better than anything you have here in terms of in terms of any kind of tube features. And the way I've done this before, like going forward, I'd probably use no one for that actually. But the way I've done this previously until now has been take this into Blender and use curves there. But even that has a bit of a setup to it. It's one of those I always have to like do a little bit Googling before I do that, or just like fiddle around with it for a little bit. Yeah, I got my iPad 2-3 weeks ago now, and I haven't really used I went straight to Nomad. I haven't really used the iPad for ZBrush too much yet. But I did it last year on my girlfriend's older iPad, but it was just a bit too old for me to actually be able to reliably use that. I was on a beta version as well. It was a bit of a bit of a mess because it wasn't actually finished when I was on that. One thing I really like about this brush is it's just how planar things can get, how organic things can get at the same time. It's definitely my all-time favorite sculpting brush, and there are plenty of brushes I made that are really poor, right? But this one here, I genuinely really enjoy using. It's maybe I enjoy using it because it's tailored to my workflow. Maybe other people don't like it, but it seems like it's pretty well received in general. So that's pretty cool to see. I tried to make a new damp standard as well, but honestly, the current damp standard is fantastic. I didn't really have, I have basically no notes. The only thing would be like it's pinching, which is annoying, but I actually couldn't find a way to make something equivalent without it pinching, which I guess is what Mr. Damien, who made the damp standard, also figured out when he made that. I'm liking this guy. I'm still not sure where I'll take him. Probably gonna give him some horns, maybe some scars, because that is what makes a hanging sculpture. Is ZBrush 1.2 perpetual is still viable for professional work, either studio or freelance? Not sure what limitations are with the new versions. It's perfectly viable. The one thing I would say, which is not viable, is this is a limitation in ZBrush, not in the specific version. ZBrush is in no way backwards compatible. So if you are getting files from ZBrush 2025 or anything more recent than 22, you will not be able to open them. This includes, for instance, tutorials. So when I'm working on my Kaiju tutorial now, you will not be able to open those files because they have been made in ZBrush 2025. And it's one of those, like, I'm obviously not going to be exporting out FBX files or OBJ files for everything there because people don't want to upgrade. Like, at some point, that becomes just insane. That's going to take up tons of space. And it means professionally, if people are sending you a C tool or a C project, you will not be able to open those unless they're also in ZBrush 2022 perpetual, which means, let's say you have a team of people working and one person is switching. Everyone agrees to be on 2022 and one person switches. Now all the files are basically corrupted in a way because now you have to switch. This has happened to me in production before. We agreed, do not switch to the most recent version. We do not switch version in mid-production, and one guy did it. And the moment he touched the files, it was no longer possible to go back. And particularly in production, you can't just easily export an OJ and stuff, right? Because it's a lot more complicated than that. So yeah, we were forced to switch. But in terms of practical features, 100% it's viable. Like, I'm using 2025 here. There's literally nothing new apart from this matte cap here. But that's it. Like, there's zero new features that I'm actually using. There are maybe some quality of life things here and there, but it's 100% going to be, like, if you can't use it, it's 100% going to be because of the backwards compatibility issue. And I genuinely don't think that's there to force people to upgrade, because it's been there for, as ZBrush has been free forever, right? Like the upgrades, you pay for the full version once and you get free updates, and this has been there since forever. So there would be no reason for them to force it in there. I reckon it's for some reason it's just always been in their code that you can do it. How do you figure out anatomy of limbs of dinosaurs of sculpting? The way I figure that kind of stuff out is I look at the skeleton. I always look at the skeleton of animals, and then I figure it out from there. And then I would use the closest living animal for reference there. So when it comes to dinosaurs, that's not like there's no monolithic anatomy for that. There's no one size fits all because they're all very different. You fundamentally have predators and you have prey and you have so many different kinds of general dinosaurs. So it's really important that you find a skeleton for the one you want to do. Of course, with the understanding that is probably half woefully inaccurate what you're actually finding, because a lot of that is, guesswork. And then you try to construct it from there using straight up regular anatomical skills, right? Like the anatomy is going to probably be more fundamentally similar to like a bird or a lizard or something like that. You can use a crocodile for reference, but the main thing with anything is get the bones right and everything else will follow. This is one of those things that I keep mentioning as one of the core skills a sculptor needs to have. Get the bones right and everything else will follow. So the reason this guy here looks the way he does is because if you were to look at his skull that I haven't made up yet, is because this bony features would go something like this, right? Like the bony features would go here, you have bones here, you have a big skull that goes here, you have the teeth going down here, right? What if the skull, what if the bones were like, if the eyes were here? Well, his eyes would be closer, right? What if the teeth, the mouth was all the way down here? Well, the mouth would be all the way down here. The bones determine practically everything about the character. Then, of course, you need to add fat and skin on top of that as well. But the bones are the most fundamental building block for anything. So if you're struggling with a character, most of the time the issue is down to the bones. I mean, hell, even animation, right? Basically, all of animation is down to place the bones in the right spot. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, right? Because, all right, cool, place in the right spot. Sure, first you need to learn how to manipulate the bones, like in a rig. Second off, you need to know, okay, right spot, what does that mean? So, it's a good pose. But a pose is just the bones that are right, like rotated in the right spot. And then you need to understand the timing of the bones, right, in relation to each other. There are so many things you have to understand, but so many things when it comes to art, when it comes to anything with figure sculpting or figure posing or anything like that, any kind of sculpting, any kind of creature is really down to get the bones right. And then of course, you need to add muscle. The order is bones as the first thing, get them in proportions right. Then it's muscles, which are attached to bones. Then it's fat on top. Then you have skin. It is more complicated than that. We have tendons and we have fascia and we have all sorts of stuff. Tons of stuff I don't even know exists because I'm not a doctor. But that's like the general gist of things. Do you need to be a decent 2D artist to be a good sculptor? Is there an overlap between the two? That's a good question. You don't need to be a good 2D artist to be good at sculpting. How do I know? Well, it's verifiable that that's not true because so many 3D artists are not good. Damien is asking, do you need to go to the Clachan to be good at anatomy? You don't need to, but it really helps. That's how I learned a lot of my anatomical skills. That was really handy. I actually walked by the Clachan today. It was good times, Damien. Good times. I miss it. I also walked by NPC today as well, and the co-working, there's a co-working space there now in the lobby that we used to go into in the ad corner. That's now a co-working space. You can now go in and rent a spot there. And in the muse in the background, like there it still has a sign that just says NPC there now in the entrance. Good times, good times. Maybe going to the Clachan doesn't help your anatomy, but you'll feel a lot better about your anatomical skills after a pint or two at the Clachan. But yeah, literally just doodling here now. Don't really know where I'm taking him. This is just starting from a super simple base mesh. Just having fun with this guy. Probably turning him into some troll dude. I just want to turn him into some guy beforehand. But let's see where he ends up. What is the Clachan? The Clachan is one of the many VFX pubs in London. The community there is more or less gone now because people like Damien in a chat unfortunately left London. So there's no more people going to the Clacking on Fridays. One of the things, of course, that happened was that work from home happened, so people don't go out to the pub as much anymore. So there's a lot less, basically like London VFX pubs kind of died out as a result. But also go to one called Spice of Life all the time. And when I go there now, it's just, there are no VFX people there. That was really fun. Early in my career, we just go to a pub all the time, meet people from the industry. It's such a good way to get connected to people in the industry. I'm gonna give this guys some eyeballs. Here's a good comment by Sheriff the Watcher. 2D knowledge helps. It has helped me drastically improve in anatomy in 3D and a whole lot of other stuff. But it's not necessary to be a good 3D artist. It's more of a method of studying for me. That's pretty much it, because you can be really good at 2D in many ways without actually understanding what's going on. As a very specific example, I was doing a lot of portraits when I was a teenager, like just, you know, celebrity portraits of family members and such. And they looked pretty good, at least I thought so, you know, based on at least the fact that I was a teenager. The problem was that I couldn't draw. Yeah, I could draw portraits, but that doesn't translate in any meaningful way, because you have a reference and you copying the reference so deeply, and not in an understanding kind of way, but you literally just copying a photo. Maybe there is some skill that translates there, but my observational skills didn't really improve fully until I was actually in VFX. So yeah, I think 2D can be useful if you use it here, like Sheriff is saying, that you use it for observational skills, and it's a hell of a shortcut for studying anatomy as well, because it means, let's say, one of my favorite exercises. This is a hardcore exercise. Let me draw this up. One of my favorite exercises is draw an anatomical figure or sculpt an anatomical figure with no ref. You're not allowed any reference whatsoever. Try to draw or sculpt this to the best of your ability. Bonus points if you can do this while labeling things. So you label every single muscle, every single bone, everything. Label everything, and you have not allowed to have any reference for this. This is such a stupidly hard exercise to do. The reason this is so good is because you realize what you don't know. If you put down everything you know about a figure, you are fully committing everything you know to paper or to a sculpt. Then you do another one with reference, and now it's going to be a delta between the two. There's going to be you're going to see that you generally try to think about, oh crap, what is this thing here called? I can't remember. So you call it like the forehead tubonoids, and you're like, that probably isn't called that. But you generally think about it, right? Try to remember it. And then you look at it with the reference, and you first have reference for sculpt and stuff here. You're going to get so much more into it. But then you will probably remember the name as well. So this is a really useful exercise. I recommend this to all of my students, where I straight up I give them an exercise, which is do this, but you have to do it in 3D. This is really hard. It's really hard to do this stuff in 3D, because you have to understand a lot more. 2D is more forgiving when it comes to anatomy, because you can actually kind of cheat anatomy, right? For an arm, you can kind of, draw some stuff in here, right? And hey, now we have a forearm, and you have like some beautiful arm, right? But you can kind of get away with this. But if you're sculpting this, since it's a 3-dimensional shape, you have to understand so much more. Drawing, of course, requires different kinds of skills. It's not that requires less in any way. But in terms of technical and anatomical skills, like 3D, like the moment you have a good 2D artist going to 3D and they're just doing a sculpt, they're realizing that, crap, I know I have a decent idea about shape and such, but I actually don't know anatomy to the degree I thought I did, because it's not a skill that's that needed in 2D as it is in 3D. You have to be very specific in 3D when it comes to these shapes. You can basically cheat your way out of a lot of things when it comes to drawing, and you can cheat yourself out of very few things, out of very few situations in 3D, since everything is on display. You can't just find a specific angle you like to draw something from. No, you gotta understand it as a fundamental 3-dimensional object. I like to do this as well, just like moving things around like this. I just get to see the character in new light. It also looks pretty funny as well, but I just like to play around with this and seeing what goes here, seeing what happens. What I'm thinking about now is that I'm trying to push some general proportions, meaning that I'm looking at the ratio between things. So I'm looking at the ratio between the nose here and the mouth, and I'm generally thinking about the distances here. So now we have a distance here, we have a distance here, and we have a distance here. So what I just did now is I pushed this further away because this was like down here. So I want to make it less even. So we can look at this as well, and just being like, yeah, you know, halfway point. Then we can just try to push and pull some various things around, and yeah, just go nuts with this stuff. Just really don't be afraid to properly play with proportions. Don't be afraid to make something bigger or smaller. Usually you can push things significantly more than you think because we tend to get really blind right away. What I sometimes do as well is like this, you just kind of shake it around because it kind of resets my brain a little bit, resets my eyes. Because you do need like need a palette cleanser sometimes, because it's so easy to get so used to what you're looking at, to the point that you can be noodling around for hours in ZBrush and you're not actually improving anything at all. If people want to see Nomad sculpt, we put out a video on that yesterday on my first impressions of Nomad, which is it was a pretty well received video. I really enjoyed making that video. We probably gonna do a lot more Nomad as well. Obviously this is not Nomad, but we'll probably do more of Nomad as well. Just because it's a fresh, fun, new software. Not even particularly new, it's new on desktop, but it's still something that's getting more and more traction. So I'm really just pushing proportions, but thinking about the ratio between the different shapes. Again, don't forget about our Black Friday sale here, where we have tons of products on sale. So yeah, just a bunch of stuff that's on sale on flipnormals.com. Link in the description of this video. What's your opinion on the smooth brush? I hear a lot of mixed opinions of whether to use it or not, or not. It's the way you can think about the smooth brush is that it's not really a smooth brush. It's a blur brush. It means that it's going to blur your details. Now the question is it good or bad to blur your details? Well, blurring your details is great if they're noisy, right? Like in this case here, I have a lot of noisy stuff, and so blurring them is not a bad idea, because see what's happening here. The shapes are blurred, they're imprecise, they're just a bit rough. I have a lot of brush strokes here that aren't contributing to anything, and they're obscuring the shape of what's happening. It makes the model look nicer than it actually is, because it's hiding a lot of the mistakes. And in this case, that's not a good thing, because I'm still designing it. I don't want to hide mistakes yet. Something we can do in texturing, right? Once we get to that level. But at this point, we just blurring things is awesome. So it's not about, like, the reason I've made videos before about you shouldn't use the blur brush or the smooth brush, right, is because people tend to make these incredibly smooth blobs that have no definition whatsoever. So, and that's because why does it look like a blurry blob? Well, it's because you went ham with the blur brush, right? That's why it looks blurry. But if you control it, well, it's fantastic. So if you understand that the blurring your things is good if you need to blur things, that's great. If you just go over everything and you just blur the crap out of your sculpts, we're gonna get something that just feels like it's a blurry mess. So that's my overall position on the smooth brush. It's fantastic as long as you control it. The reason I really advise against it sometimes is because you don't know how to control it. And by using the clay brushes, like for instance the one I'm using now, right, the clay build-up, my custom one, is that you genuinely are forced to learn how to sculpt. Like there is no shortcut here. You have to understand how to sculpt. You have to understand how to create and refine volumes without smoothing. Once you understand this, then smoothing things is awesome because it means you get good, clean, natural shapes, which is great. So I hope that answers your question. Sheriff is saying, your topology and UV mapping courses are awesome. Thank you so much. That makes sense. Thanks a lot for the advice. Thank you. For so many things in 3D, not even 3D, but like in life in general, the more you learn about things, the more the answer is, well, it depends. It's almost frustrating talking to somebody who's really senior about certain things because the answer is always it depends. That's one of the things I find to be interesting when teaching is that you do have to say it depends, but you really have to understand what the audience is like, because a beginner audience might not need to know all the nuance about certain things. They might not just need to know what are they doing right now. And it's not about understanding of teaching them every single intricate different things about things, because it's just going to be information overload. So it's really difficult to teach concepts like this because you do genuinely have to go, well, it depends. But if you go, well, it depends on too many things, then unless the students understand what it depends on, that's really difficult. I honestly prefer it more when it's both of you on the courses. Makes it so much fun. Yeah, that'd be fun. A bit hard because Morten lives in Denmark now, and I live in London, so it probably won't be happening anytime soon. It's also just a lot harder to do because a lot of the times it's a lot of the subject is really just something that one person can teach as well. So for commercial courses, we're probably going to keeping this to just do one. We even split that up even when we lived in the same country, because it was like commercial courses it just took such a long time to. They take ages to do. Like the kaiju course now is 40 hours of recording so far, and that obviously includes a hell of a lot more prep than 40 hours. So yeah, those courses take ages to do. I don't see anything worth a subscription, and 22 has all you need to stay in the pipeline. Caveat, unless the pipeline revolves around ZBrush 2025 or more recent version. I think that the most recent is 2026, but I'm not upgrading until my kaiju is out of the door because I'm not going to change printing software mid-production here. So yeah, in terms of if you're solo, go for it, right? Like no reason at all to upgrade, in my opinion, because it's not like upgrading. It's that you're fundamentally switching to a paid plan that's going to cost you a lot of money per year. So it's not like you're getting the most recent features. It's the fact that you're now committing a certain amount of money each year to ZBrush. And if you use ZBrush every single day and that's your bread and butter, you will just have to do that. I think sooner or later you will just have to commit to that. But if you're a hobbyist and you do this once in a while, or a freelancer and you need to sculpt some stuff once in a while, I honestly wouldn't go on a subscription unless you really have to. Like I said, I really don't see a whole lot of new features in 2025. Like Slime Bridge are cool if you need to do a lot of slime, I suppose. Yeah, stuff gets it just gets quite expensive because it's not like people only have ZBrush. You might have Maya, you have a lot of Blender add-ons potentially. You might need maybe Houdini, you have Painter, you have so many different things, maybe Rism. There are so many different software that require subscription, and only like it's 50 a month or something. Cool, 600 a year, great, right? Like stuff piles on, and sure, they're business expensive, but what's better than a business expense? No expense, right? It's just a lot easier. Hey guys, hello Henning, what's up? I hope you're doing well. Hello. I am just sculpting. I'm really excited about being back in ZBrush today because I've been in Nomad the whole week, which is also really fun. So you can check out the last streams. And what is also up is our Black Friday sale. Hey! Good segue, Henning. Good segue. I want to show you guys a course. This is a course that's a few years old now, but it's still pretty much all up to date, I think. It's this guy, where are you? I'm probably just blind to it as well. I'll show the guys this as well. Yeah, I made most of these courses, which is really fun. Really enjoyed having built a lot of these ones. Here we go. Realistic character portrait masterclass. This is where I go through how to create this right here from scratch. This is where it's sculpting in ZBrush, painting in Painter, render in Blender, and yeah, just going through the whole thing. It seems like such an easy course to make now, because this is 20 hours and my kaiju isn't even done yet, and it's 40 hours of recording so far. So hard makes normal easy, I suppose. For my next course, I want that to not be 60 hours long. That would be pretty grand. I would like that to be the case, that it's not 60 hours long. I reckon it's going to be around 60 hours. I reckon I'm like 2/3 done with it so far. Yeah, that sounds about right. I haven't started texturing yet on it, but I have done the baking, low poly, high poly, all the various features like the eyes, or sorry, the claws and teeth and such. But I do require some. I have to do the eyes in Unreal. I still have to do Unreal as well for it. Yeah, good times. A lot of good stuff. But yeah, next one, let's not do the most insane course I can possibly think of. The last details that are done on the surface of the skin, what kind of details are done for the surface of the skin? So that would be, that really depends on how you want to do it. You have two main methods. You have either you do it in ZBrush using, let me actually show you, using something like the Flipmode Skin Kit. I'll link to this one. This is where you just have alphas and you can do this kind of stuff, right? You can just do all this using alphas. And this is really fast to do. Like, this is not something that's particularly time consuming to do. I'll send this over now. And this is just gonna make it really easy to do. Let me actually show you real quick. I'm just gonna do a clone of this guy here. Then we'll subdivide him a little bit. And then we'll go in here and I'll do this. So the advantage of doing this in ZBrush is that you can really see what you're doing, and it's very direct. So what you can do here is you can do this, and now, hey, now we have skin details. Hey, nice. So this means you can now get really beautiful pores on a face, like so. This is fantastic, because it means you can really get some nice high frequency really, really, really fast. You can even do stuff like this spray. So all these this is just done with a Flipmode Skin Kit, right? This isn't necessarily designed for this exact thing, but we have plenty of other ones as well. And yeah, this is great because you can really, really, really get far in no time just using alphas like this. You can just do this and you just have, boom, leathery skin, right? This is how you do it. The disadvantage of doing this in ZBrush is that you are limited to by the poly count. And that is bad because on a character, you can't really go a whole lot more than something like 50 million polys. And 50 million polys is, keep in mind, a 4K map is 16 billion pixels. Or polys, right? Which means it's 16 million pixels, which is only like 3 UDIMs 4K, which is really not a lot. So that means that you really just don't have that much resolution, which means that you will either run out of resolution. It might be fine in some cases, right? But particularly for like high quality VFX asset where you need significantly more resolution than that, it's just not good enough. While if you do it in Painter or Mari, the advantage of doing it there is that you can do it. You can do the details. The detail level is entirely independent of the poly count, and it's just tied to the texture resolution. So if you want to increase it by like 4 times, for instance, you go from 2K, all the units are now 2K to now being 4K, and boom, increase the resolution by 4 times, equivalent to subdividing once, right? So this is how you would do it. You would do it either in ZBrush, depending on what stage it's at and such. For concept sculpting, doing in ZBrush is great. For production, doing it in Mari is great. I know some people like to do it in Painter as well. All good, as long as you know what you're doing. It's perfectly fine. Hey, in the Nomad video, you mentioned a brush from the Flipmode kit. I think. Which one was it? That was the Flipmode Skin Kit. I'm not actually sure entirely which one I used in the video. Let's see here. It's one of these ones here. I think it's this one actually, Elephant Skin 02, which is just doing this. Fairly certain it was this one. So that's, yeah, skin kit. The skin kit was made to be able to do a lot of skin real fast, right? So it's a generic skin kit, which means that it works for all sorts of different things, for characters and for creatures. It's not a specialized kit for faces and for different things, but it's a really good generic kit which works for most things. Let me actually show you while I'm talking about that. I made a lot of alphas for the kaiju as well, just to make that a lot faster. So here are some of those I made that we were probably going to put this out for sale as well as a separate kit, but they are for sure going to be shipping with the kaiju tutorial. This just made the whole process so much easier, though it did take me quite some time to make these alphas as well. But this is something I use for the arms and the chest and the body in general, which just sped this up so much, because this here is a pain to do. The way I did these ones is I just sculpted them up on a plane. Nothing fancy. Straight up just bring in a plane in ZBrush and just sculpt, then extract them out. And that's how I do it. There are definitely smarter ways of doing it, but I'm not sure if there are better ways of doing it. Because if you try to find smarter ways, then yeah, it's gonna be fast. But I don't know of a way that gives me the same level of control and gives me alphas that are that nice and organic. They're gonna look, if you do it in Designer, for instance, they're gonna look nice, right? But they're not gonna look the same as you're just not gonna have the same level of organicness, if that's a word, as you do if you do them in ZBrush like that. Just going to play around with the shapes as well, seeing what we can do. Because I would like to work in mostly film industry like you did at Framestore, so which course should I take, or do you have any recommendations? I recommend, particularly if you want to do characters, that you go through this one here. This follows, this is the character portrait masterclass. So this is not a full quality VFX course, because obviously that's insane to do, but it's a very, very good course for that. It covers all the main steps. It covers displacement map extraction. It covers all the things. So this is a foundational course for that. But we also have one, Nicola. If I can type today. Nicola Morel, who did a fantastic course here. This is, where are we? He just did a course that came out this week or last week, which is, this is fantastic as well. This is also 20% off during the sale. This is where he's showing how to texture this. This is a full VFX workflow. This is how Nicola would do this when he was in VFX. So this is in Mari. So if you want to learn how to do creatures from Mari, this course is insane. Like it really covers how to do things. He starts off with this model here, and then he covers how to texture this whole thing here from scratch. Super cool. There are, as far as I know, there aren't any courses else like that as well, because you obviously need to be incredibly specialized to be able to do that level of creature texturing, and you need to be able to do tutorials. So, and you need to have time for it. So that's tricky stuff to do. But yeah, that's a brilliant course. I checked it out a few days ago. Just going around and making sure the bony landmarks are a bit more prominent. If I'm struggling with a character, I go into the bony landmarks pretty much right away. I tend to just go into that pretty soon. One thing I will do with this guy here, this is actually a brush from the Flipmos brush kit that I was talking about earlier. This is one I really enjoy. This is the FN Tubes, and this is the clay billet brush. Sorry, not clay billet, it's the clay tubes brush, just with just a bit of modification. So this is a little bit less ruthless. I really like this brush because it is is really good for planes, and it's really good for making stuff look a bit plainer. So often what I like to do is I have a mid sculpt like this, and then I'm not really liking it. He's okay. And then I go in and I go crazy with a clay brush like that. We can also just increase the resolution a bit as well, just so I have a bit more to play with here. And then I'll just go nuts with this. In terms of for creature stuff as well, like if you want to do stuff for film, the kaiju tutorial I'm working on, this is for, obviously for games, but a lot of it translates directly to film as well. Like for instance, the whole sculpting workflow is like, I could really modify that to be a full VFX asset, and it really wouldn't take me that long, because fundamentally the workflow is so similar. So the kaiju tutorial, once it's done, is definitely going to be a really good one for that as well, because so much of games and film, it's really converged now. It used to be more different, I think, but it's really converged in so many ways where there are differences, but when it comes to AAA stuff, a lot of it is the same. A big difference is, of course, that you need to bake your assets, and you need to have a low poly version. In film, you don't really have a low poly per se. You have a subdividable model that's going to be rigged and such, but it's not a low poly that has a normal map applied to it. It's a low subdivision level for ZBrush that has a displacement map applied to it, often a vector displacement map. Yeah, the thing that's going to be fun about the kaiju one is that it's going to be one of the few tutorials that as far as I know, the only tutorial that shows you how to do a character or creature to that level of fidelity. As far as I know, there isn't really anything else out there, at least that where it's all real time. Because most tutorials that focus on that stuff, they don't do anything real time. They're all time lapse and such. So, but in my tutorial, I actually do it all real time, which is why it's so hard, because I need to actually do it properly. I can't just do it and then time lapse and voice over and be like, yeah, I screwed up a little bit here, but it's fine. I need to properly do it step by step, which is really difficult. But yeah, 40 hours into that tutorial now. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, though not yet, because it's almost Christmas, and that means I won't be able to finish that until January or so. I was really hoping to have that done before the end of the year, but it is what it is. One thing that I did as well that was a bit interesting was I changed Blender version midway through, because Blender 5 came out, and I was not going to UV map a character or creature like the kaiju in Blender 4.5. That is, fellas, that is no way to live. There's no way that's healthy for anyone's mental health. So I had to switch to Blender 5 for that, just because Sync UV is fixed there. Yeah, Ben's course is also really good. That's Ben Erd's course. Let me show you guys that as well. Ben Erd is an absolute beast. Genius level artist. Let's see. I have a sculpting glove on, so I type like I am completely blind. This is fantastic as well. This shows you how to do this. This is time-lapsed, but it's also because, kind of has to be, because this is so elaborate. This is much, much more about the process than it is about anything else. It really is about what are the steps involved to do this. It's not about software. It's highly advanced, and it's perfect. If you have a good understanding of software, meaning you know how Blender works, you know what UV mapping is and such, and you don't need to have your hand held for that kind of stuff, then Ben's course is fantastic. That's one of the tricky things. I tend to divide courses into 3 categories. First, we have beginner. That's where the user will just have to, the student will just have to have his or her hand held throughout the whole course. There's no way around that. Every single button is going to have to be explained. You can't just go, yeah, then we're going to do another piece kind of like this, just learn from what you just did. No, you're going to have to show every single button so that the student can follow along. Then you have intermediate, which is, I think about that as like second year of uni, where they have a decent understanding of the software, but a lot of things they don't understand. There are a lot of things they don't understand, a lot of process stuff they don't understand, but they understand a lot of tools, but it really is more about workflow and how to get nice results. You don't necessarily have to show every single step, every single hotkey, because you assume that they're somehow familiar with that. And then you have advanced, which is where they're basically at a junior level, in terms of the industry, meaning that they are good enough to get a job, or they're like, close to that level. They have an excellent understanding of the tools. They understand how to use their tools, but they need workflow advice and guidance on how to make something look excellent, or how to make something to a senior level in terms of an industry level asset. And for those, you cannot explain everything step by step. There's no way you can do that, because in order to do something which is to a high level, when you're making a tutorial, you have to just spend so much time refining things, and you just have to spend a lot of time on it, because that's the reality of making a high quality asset. If I were to make a high quality visual effects asset or a high quality games asset, you can't just do that over 4 hours of real time, right? There's just no way around that. It just takes a lot more time. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of reference gathering, a lot of matching to reference, all that kind of stuff. So for that, you will either have to just spend a lot of time on it, or you're going to have to time-lapse a lot of things, which is, I don't like time-lapses. Certain tutorials benefit from that. But for the Kaiju tutorial, it's all real-time, which is a lot of work. Sometimes as well, a time-lapse is actually better than a real-time, because sometimes things are so slow that you don't actually see what's happening unless it is shown with a time-lapse. It's kind of like, you're seeing like the glaciers melting and such. That's something that you have to see on time lapse, because if you just were to see that in real time, like you're standing in front of a glacier in Norway or Switzerland or something, and you're being like, yeah, look at these guys melting, you can't see that. But if you were to look at a photo from 10 years ago to now, obviously you can see that, which is a bit like the same in sculpting as well. Like sometimes you just need to, sometimes you just need to see before and after of the 5 hours of sculpting to be able to even tell the difference. Minute to minute, or maybe hour to hour, you literally won't be able to tell what's happening. Gonna break symmetry here. I usually break symmetry in the center line. Yeah, that is why some people had got issues about which courses they need to see, because there are a lot. So from the beginner to advanced, which one should we watch mostly? That's a really good question. I recommend anyone who's interested in characters, this one, which is Introduction to Anatomy. This is not a definite guide to anatomy, but it's pretty good, right? This is a course I made. Something was up 2 years ago now, and this covers everything you need to know really about getting started with anatomy. Emphasis on intro, and this one here covers a fundamental approach to sculpting. We sculpt this guy at the end as well, this Hulk-like figure, and we cover really all the things you need to know. You get to look at my hands like this, and you just get to understand how things work. It's one of those, your anatomy isn't everything. Oh, absolutely it's not. But without anatomy, you have nothing. Like, it's really, really, really difficult to sculpt realistic characters for anything, movies or games or like anything like that, if you don't understand anatomy. So I highly, highly, highly recommend Intro to Anatomy. I also really recommend, should be a link to it here, which is Intro to Sculpting as well. Intro to Sculpting is, let's see where we are. Intro to Sculpting, here we go. Intro to Sculpting is basically the first part to this. They're made at different times, but they work really well together. The Intro to Sculpting is essentially part 1, and then Intro to Anatomy is basically part 2, where they build upon each other. So if you're interested in learning how to sculpt, I really recommend these courses. They're of course 50% off today as well, and for a few more days as well because of Black Friday. So I highly recommend these ones here. It's basically me going in and trying to teach genuinely everything I know about sculpting. I'm not holding anything back. If there is some stuff there that I know that's not in a course, it might just be because it's too esoteric, or because I learned that after I made those courses. So my overall philosophy, honestly, when it comes to sculpting, is just teach everything. When it comes to character art, it comes to 3D, it's just teach everything. If somebody were to get a benefit over me by me teaching a trick or a tip or way to think about something, that means that my professional career isn't worth a whole lot. I think a lot of people are afraid that they have a few cool tricks about how to do something specific, and if other people will learn that trick, then it's game over for them. But the reality is that if you have a professional career, it's not grounded in tips or tricks. It's going to be grounded in a fundamental understanding about how to approach a certain task. It's if somebody could just replace you by exporting out a displacement map from ZBrush or something, and you have the perfect setting for it. All right, cool. Then you're probably not very good in the first place, right? So that's how I think about it. I think that it's been very extremely beneficial for, at least it's been for my career, to share my tips and tricks. I really enjoy doing it, and people are really cool about sharing their own things as well. So I really like a radical culture of just, or like a culture of like radical openness about these things. I think this is a really, really good thing for our industry. And I think everyone just benefits from it. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like I have my trick, and if you have my trick, then I lose. No, I can have my trick and you can have your trick, and we can share it, and everyone is better off, right? Also, there are very few things that are very difficult to do in 3D that can't like be reverse engineered or something. There are very few things that are also like that are locked in time as well. So if you have a specific trick on how to, I don't know, export FBX or something you don't want to share, maybe next year that trick is irrelevant because there is a new exporter or something, right? And then that's all worthless. And now what everyone remembers is that you were a bit of a dick about it, right? instead of the fact that you had your secrets. It's the same thing with sculpting. Like it's like what makes me valuable as a sculptor is the fact that I've been doing this for a very long time. It's not the fact that I know the ZBrush interface or that I understand what appeal is or how I can explain appeal or whatever. This is the stuff that you need to have in your hands. You need to be able to intuitively grasp these concepts, because if you don't, then it doesn't matter what theoretical knowledge you have or anything like that. It really is about a fundamental approach to creating characters. For VFX work and film productions like frames per C, what kind of portfolio should I make as a character artist? Like mostly concept sculpts or entire workflow that I should show? You need to fundamentally, when it comes to portfolio, this is not just for characters, but fundamentally when you're building a portfolio, you need to show a portfolio which means that they can envision you in their production right away, which means you need to figure out what kind of work they are doing or what the work they looks like. I don't just mean in terms of like, are they doing a robot next or something? I mean in terms of like, if you're a modeler, what will you be doing? Well, if you're a character modeler, you obviously will be sculpting, right? So you need that. What are you going to be sculpting? You're going to be sculpting humans. Some creative things, like maybe like an orc like this or a goblin dude like this or whatever it is, right? You're probably going to be sculpting some more fantasy creatures as well, like maybe some kind of chimera or a griffin or something like that, right? So and so you need to show that you can sculpt a range of varied things. So that's important. But also you need to be good at topology as well and UVs and just making sure that your stuff is well presented. If you only have concept sculpts in your portfolio, then people will assume that you can only concept sculpt. And that is really dangerous because you are, particularly if you're a junior, you're just not going to get a job as a concept sculptor. Concept sculpting is also like a very senior position because that's something that you're sitting in the art department, like you're a concept artist then, right? And it's not like people just do that and you're just doing concept sculpting. It's a very difficult position to be. So what you're going for is you're going in as a modeler. And for that, you need to be good at modeling, production modeling, which means you need to show a few different things. So, and you also need to be very prepared for the fact that you are probably not going to be doing a lot of like superhero character stuff right away. You're probably going to be thrown into some stuff that there are less consequences to failure, right? You're going to be doing some props, some hard surface stuff. It's a lot easier to do certain environmental props than it is to do a whole hero character, which means you probably need to show them that you know how to do props as well. You need to show that you know how to do hard surface modeling. I think you would have a very hard time unless you're absolutely world class. You will have a really hard time getting a job unless you have some kind of props or hard surface or something like that. So I would say in general, this depends of course on the studio, and you can ask 10 people and get 10 different replies. My reply is you need to have probably around 4 pieces in your portfolio. That's achievable, but it's also not too much. Each piece needs to show something unique, meaning that don't sculpt 4 guys like this. That's pointless. If you can do 1, the studio is like, yeah, they could probably do 2, right? You could probably do more. So don't waste your time. Then you need to show, like, an animal can be good. A lot of animals are needed in the industry for commercials or movies and stuff like that. So that's really handy as well. Definitely some kind of hard surface prop. I like to recommend doing a piece that is, I call it the overkill piece. The overkill pieces are the ones that they just take a long time to do. That's where it looks almost like you cheated because there's so much effort put into it. But if they ask you, hey, how did you do this? This seems like a lot of work. You go, yeah, that was a lot of work. So how did you model all the things here from scratch? Yep. Also taking ages. Took ages, man. Took ages. That's where you're really just committing to a full piece. So that's something I really recommend that you do. You really go in and you do that. So that's 3 pieces. And then I really recommend that you have some kind of figure sculpting as well. This is not a definite list. There is no perfect portfolio piece. There's no perfect portfolio. It depends on who's reviewing it, depends on what projects they have as well, depends on your skill sets. But these are some general guidelines, right? Try to not do something too stylized or too weird. Like if you're going for VFX, every single project pretty much is going to be around realism. It's going to be some stylized stuff here and there, maybe, but you're fundamentally, at least for like Framestore and ILM and such, you're fundamentally working on realistic things, which is really, really important to keep in mind. Which means something like this, where I'm stylizing this now, this is not good, because this means that they're not going to have a project with a clay orc goblin troll, right? They're going to have projects with trolls and goblins and such, but sure as hell not something that is like this unless it's some incredibly weird project. So it's really, really important that you are creating projects where they can envision that you can work on this, that you can work on the production right away. But before that, you need to just get really good. Honestly, there is no shortcut here. The way I see it is there are 2 main things you need to get a job. The first one, you need to get good, right? There's no way around that. Like, unless you're actually good at your skills, unless your skills are to a certain level where a VFX studio would want to hire you, like, it doesn't matter what you put in your portfolio. It's like you're trying to run a marathon, but you can't run a marathon, right? You're like, yeah, man, I want to run it in like 3.5 hours. And then you can only run 5 kilometers, right? Like, it literally doesn't matter what you're trying to do. You're going to be competing against people who can run a marathon. You need to be sure that you can actually run the marathon, because otherwise there's not even competition. So first off, figure out that you actually have the skills, and then you need to show off that you have your skills. So first off, get good. Then second off, show that you are good. And that sounds very simple. It's a definite oversimplification, but fundamentally it means that you're strong enough to do the job. If you are strong enough to do the job, no one cares because you aren't showing it. Then you need to build a portfolio to show that off. That's the purpose of the portfolio. They don't really have resumes. Like, you don't really show your CV and VFX because it doesn't really matter. Like, people overcomplicate it with cover letters and CVs and all that kind of jazz. It's pointless to even look at a resume. You have to look at the CV or a cover letter until they've seen your portfolio. Like, what's the point about reading a long cover letter or reading the CV unless they can even do it, right? Sure, that changes the higher up you go, because at some point, like if you're lead or something, of course you don't have a portfolio necessarily. And if you're a senior, they just kind of assume that, you have the experience, you've been working for years at similar studios, and hell, all your work might be under NDA anyway, right? So there is that. But you need to just convince them. Build a killer portfolio. I recommend doing this is a term I've invented. maybe some people have used it before as well. Maybe it's a nonsense term. I call it a skill audit. A skill audit is where you ideally pay somebody who knows what they're talking about to give you a proper audit of your skills. Where it's like, let's say you want to do character art for visual effects, or for games or lighting for games or something. Find somebody who's a professional in that field. Send them a polite email being like, hey, I need to know what skill level I'm currently at. Because remember, you need to get good first, then you build a portfolio. You don't know what level you're at unless somebody's told you. You literally can't know that. We cannot evaluate our own skill level. That's basically impossible, right? This is not like weightlifting where you can see a number. This is something that you need a professional to tell you what level you're at. Your teachers do not count. They probably will not have the experience required. So you need somebody like for instance, for film, somebody like myself, or for lighting, you need somebody like myself, but who's an expert at lighting, to tell you, hey, yeah, you're actually pretty close to building a portfolio. Here are some exercises you should do. Or they can tell you, look, man, you just actually have to practice your sculpting a lot more. If you start a portfolio right now, this is completely pointless. So send them a polite email, offer them to literally pay them for their time, because it turns out people respond well to money. That's just the way it is. If you ask people on LinkedIn or on ArtStation or such, just be like, hey, can you check out my portfolio? They're going to go like, yeah, man, that's good. Or they're just not going to get back to you because people are busy, right? People are busy today. But if you actually ask them, if you actually straight up offer to pay for their time, I think a lot of people will actually be willing to do that. And that's a really, really, really valuable skill set, because it means a really valuable use of your resources, because that means that you now know if you're good enough or not. Like I said, first, get good. And second off, show the world that you have got good. And you don't know, right? You don't know. It means that if you don't know, then you start your portfolio, what if you are miles off? Right? This is something that happens with tons of people, where they're building a portfolio and they're not even close to being able to get the job. Like, meaning they just spend like a year on their portfolio, but under like false pretenses in a way, where like almost like their skills aren't good enough for it. Like, what's the point of that? About that? It's almost like you're trying to write a book in a language that you're not proficient in. Like, what's the point of that? Get proficient in the language first, because no one's going to read your crappy book if the language is a barrier. Like, what's the point about that? Reading something in pirate English, right? Like, just get good enough at the thing you need to get good enough, and then spend your time on that. Because that means you can also focus on the substance of your portfolio as well, instead of just like surviving, right? And then once you're actually building your project as well, I recommend talking to the same person who gave you a skill audit to be like, hey, here's my project. Am I on the right track? And they can tell you yes or no. And if yes, awesome, you're good. If no, why not? And what do you have to do that? This is something I do with some of my students, where I straight up just give them feedback along the way and really just make sure they're just on the right course. And sometimes just a few, like one feedback session or something, can be enough to guide them onto the correct course. Because obviously at that point they have the right skill set. It might just be that they need maybe they need a bit of a push in certain areas. They need to understand something, or maybe they just need to be told, hey, yeah, I mean, you're doing really well, but here's a brilliant piece of reference I found, or a tutorial that I think can really help you. Check this out. And they're like, thank you. And now they're on the right path again, right? So I really, like, long answer here, but I really cannot recommend this enough. Talk to somebody who knows who's already an expert in what the thing you want to do, and then ask them for, like, if they can check out your stuff. Very long answer to that. Damn, I flipped normal stream. I'm currently taking the intro to sculpting course too. Hey, awesome! Now you can listen to me twice. You can have me on while sculpting, and you can have me on while sculpting. I think that is too much henning for anyone. I don't think anyone should have that much henning in their lives. I have this actually because I'm editing the kaiju course as I'm going along as well. So I'm listening to myself a lot. There aren't too many mistakes in it, and every time there is a mistake, I announce it. I'm like, hey, you have to cut away this part is rubbish. Fix this and such. So I announce it there. So I'm basically playing just racing games. I'm playing like Mario Kart and Forza Horizon while I'm editing, and I'm listening to myself at 2x speed, just listening for those cues. Absolutely mad. That is, fellas, that is no way to live. Hello, what do you think of ZBrush for iPad? I like it. I like it a lot. I think ZBrush for iPad is great. It's easier to use than desktop. The sculpting feels good. It's really powerful. What was I was able to push it to? I think I was able to push it like 50 million polys or so. That's on my M4 iPad. 8 gigs of RAM, I think it is. It's good, yeah. It's also included in ZBrush, right? If you have a ZBrush subscription, obviously not if you're on 2022, But if you're on 25 or, whatever, 26, the most recent one, then you have that included, which is cool. Do you suggest making portfolio pieces as you learn and get rid of older pieces, or wait until you're good enough first? That's an excellent question. This is also going to be monologue time. What I recommend, there are two kinds of projects. The first project type is what I call a project. The project is where you are going through something start to finish, and let's say it's this guy here, right? This can be a project. This is a project here now. I sculpt this guy up, I retopologize him, I UV map him, I texture paint him, and I do a render of him. That's going to be a project. Maybe it's going to be terrible in the end, but it's a project. What does that mean? This means this is a project where I learn the workflow, which is fantastic. It means like you can't just do scopes and isolation and do tests. You have to do projects. You have to learn how to set up displacement maps. You have to learn how texturing combines with modeling and UV mapping and everything. There's no way around that. So in this case, you have to do projects. That's how you learn. So this can be, for instance, a school project. That's where you're being told to do this kind of dude here. We call him the orc project, right? And you're just building this project up. And at the end of it, you have something that is finished. And maybe it's not good, but it's finished. And this is really important. It's really, really, really important that you finish something, because this is the one way that you genuinely learn how things connect. If you do not finish things, you will not learn how things connect. And if you do know how things connect, you can't connect them up, right? Then all your knowledge is just purely theoretical, and nothing actually is gonna make too much sense to you. Like, for instance, why do we UV map? Oh, it's to make something flat. Okay, cool. But what makes a good UV map and a bad UV map? You will literally not be able to answer that until you have started texturing. The moment you texture something, that is when you understand UV mapping. The moment you rig something, that's when you understand topology, right? The moment you retopo something, that's where you understand what a good sculpt can be and what a bad sculpt can be. The moment you shade something, that's when you understand what good texturing is like. You literally need to go through each step to do that. So one part is projects, where these are not portfolio pieces. These are projects. This is where you go through them to learn. You optimize these projects here to learn something. Of course, the better they look, the better it is, right? And then you have the second part. The second type of project is a portfolio piece. A portfolio piece, the primary purpose of a portfolio piece is for you to get a job, right? This can be either freelance work, or it can be a studio job, or anything like that. But regardless, you are showing that off to people who are willing to give you hard cash for your skills. A project is here for you. It can be in a portfolio piece. All portfolio pieces are projects, but not all projects are portfolio pieces. So you can do it the way you're doing it, which means that you're starting on something and then you update and all that and you kill them. But if you're starting portfolio pieces and you treat them like projects, you're in trouble. You need to be deliberate about what it is you're doing. So if you, for instance, one of the really bad ways you can approach this is if you're attending university. Now you're going to be doing a lot of projects. That's good. What's bad is if you treat a project like a portfolio piece. Now you're going to have a lot of really bad stuff in your portfolio, because let's say you're doing like some kind of short film, some kind of commercial. That is going to have the worst animation anyone has ever seen on planet Earth, because student animation is notoriously crappy. So let's say you have your really nice, your model is really nice and all that, but the animation is terrible. All right, cool. Now this is not going to be a particularly good shot in your reel. Instead, don't just throw whatever school projects you have. Deliberately build portfolio pieces where you sit down, first and foremost. You sit down, you make basically a spreadsheet. You make a status for them. You treat this like it's a job, and you're going like with the aforementioned skill audit. You go to somebody who knows what's up, and you ask them for a conversation, and you're like, hey, I want to build a portfolio. Specifically, what should be in this one? And you're like, in this call, I want to figure this out. By the end of this, I have a list of what to build. So let's say this is now, I want to do a figure sculpting. I want to do a Bernini study. Awesome. That's a portfolio piece. How do you get good enough to do a Bernini study? And you got to sculpt a lot. And this is a good approach to how to do it. Now, should you delete project like older portfolio pieces? I think a good way to do this is to be highly ruthless, because everyone is going to have a portfolio, right? At some point, like you're going to put all your project in there, and then you're going to, you're going to say this is a portfolio piece. And this is something I did. Everyone is messing this up basically, right? Where you have a lot of projects that aren't good enough. I think your portfolio should be an ArtStation. And you can, of course, have a show reel as well, but ArtStation is a good way to do it. Not a lot of studios are totally fine with just an ArtStation. Some aren't, but so you have a reel as well. But at least temporarily, build ArtStation. Like, don't worry about a custom website. I don't think a custom website is good for students. Don't waste your time on that. Put it up on ArtStation, and you are only allowed 4 or 5 portfolios or pieces. That means that, of course, you can have as many as you want to technically, but in this case, you're only allowed 4 or 5 pieces. And that means that when you make a new project, a new portfolio, you upload something new to ArtStation, something else has got to go. And that means the worst piece is going to go. That means that you're automatically sanitizing. You have a system for sanitizing your portfolio. A big issue is that you get blind to your pieces and you're like, but I really like this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. It was a first year project that's 3 years old now. And it's just not up to standard. Yeah, but you liked it. Yeah, but it's not good enough. It doesn't matter, right? And this is basically a fail-safe against that, because you do not want this. Keep in mind, if you have a portfolio, you are going to have to show that to people in the real world, and they are going to go through each piece in an interview, and they're going to go like, hey, what's up with this one? This piece here is a little crappy. And you go, yeah, I made it in first year. All right, but have you improved since then? Like, why is this so rough? Oh, I just like it. Okay, cool. But now they will still assume that this is the level you can do, right? So you got to be prepared to defend things to people who can literally change your life, right? People who have potentially your career, the thing you've been working towards for a very long time, in the palm of their hands. You got to make sure that doesn't happen, right? You got to make sure that you are prepared for this, that when you are showing off your portfolio to them, this is a highly refined and curated collection of your best pieces. Because if you don't, somebody who has done that, it's just going to look stronger than you are, right? So hopefully that answers your question. In short, build portfolio pieces that are specific portfolio pieces. Do a lot of projects, because that's a fantastic way to learn, but optimize them for different things. A portfolio piece is intended, its primary purpose is to be reviewed by people to give you a job. The primary purpose of a project is for you to learn something. Either you're optimizing for the final result, or you're optimizing for you learning something. I don't know if it's possible, if we can share quickly my ArtStation. Yeah, sorry, I can't do this on stream. That's something that you can join our Discord maybe. Let's see if we can send a link to that. I'll just move this real fast over. It's pretty cool that Discord needs to update all the time. Yeah, I don't want to review something live without having looked at stuff first. But I'll send a Discord invite here as well. Invite to server. Thank you. So a personal project as a learning experience and portfolio once you feel strong enough in those areas of learning. That's pretty much it. There is no perfect way to do this, but that's basically it. With the important caveat that if you understand that you are not a good judge of your own skill level, and nor are your fellow students or the guys you hang out with on Discord, unless they are professionals and experts at what they're doing, then you are not good enough. Somebody who has, if somebody who is a second year student at the university is not good enough to judge if your stuff is at a professional level. This is something I see a lot, where somebody's like, oh man, this person here is so good, and they're really hyping each other up, and I look at their portfolio and it's like, like they're okay, but they're not so good. I think the reason, this is not even to be critical about that, but I think what's happening is that people judge the work in relation to the people around them. So particularly in people in school or in Discord or something. Discord might actually be better because there's a wider range of talent there. But particularly people in school, that they the best person in class is the best one, and the worst person in class is the worst one. When the reality is that the best person in class might be really, really, really far away from joining the industry, and the worst person in class is never ever going to be joining the industry, right? Like it's one of those that's really important to zoom out like that. Like this has happened so often when I review student work, where they're really confident. They're like, yeah, I'm not sure if I should go for like DNIG or frame story. Like ILM looks really interesting. And it's like, man, this is not even the conversation we're having now. The conversation we're having is that you just finish your master's degree and you're not to the level where, you wouldn't even get into a lot of art schools, right? With this portfolio, unfortunately, right? That is the conversation I'm having a lot with people, which is heartbreaking on so many levels. Like that's a really rough conversation to have. But that is unfortunately the conversation a lot of people are having, which is why you need a skill audit by somebody, right? Like somebody needs to tell you what level you're at, because you literally cannot know this yourself. It's so difficult. I mean, how could you? How could you know what skill level you're at when there isn't like a metric for it? It's not like weightlifting, right? Like let's say you need to deadlift 200 kilos and you can deadlift 140. All right, cool. You got to do more. It's almost like you're deadlifting and you don't know what's required to enter the industry. You think you can deadlift 80 kilos and get in, and actually it's 340, right? Like you just don't even know what that is like. And in this case scenario as well, in this extended weightlifting metaphor, you don't even know what you're deadlifting. So you don't know what you're deadlifting and you don't know what's required, and you think what's required is much lower than what it actually is. So I'm sure I can find more weightlifting metaphors as well to talk about this here. But I kind of like fitness metaphors because you can measure fitness, right? It's very easy to measure this kind of stuff. How fast you run a marathon for, how fast can you cycle London to Brighton, right? Like it's very easy to measure this. You can put two people up against each other and it's very clear who's the winner in pretty much every single discipline, right? Which I think is pretty cool. Well, this is the problem with CG, that often you can't. A good artist obviously can tell who is stronger, right? You can, like, I can probably look at two students and tell them who has the most experience and who is the strongest artist, even though they might not be able to tell themselves. But that's the issue. Like, again, if this was like running a marathon and everyone knew their time and everyone knew what a good time was, that would be different. But this is not known. Yeah, this is the most heartbreaking thing I know when I'm talking to students. That is when people are really, really, really far away off getting into the industry, and they think they're really close. They were like, yeah, I'm starting to apply to studios now. I've been spending the last year building my portfolio, and their stuff is like 2-3 years away from even starting to do that. Like basically, they're like, I met people they're finishing their master's degree, and they're not even close to anything creative. Like that is basically what radicalized me against universities. The UK universities as well are really not good, even though there are some of the better ones out there. Unfortunately, there are so many universities out there that are like borderline scams as well, and then of course you have the debt on top of that, right? I mean, this is one of the things that legit motivates me to do more good tutorials for YouTube and like paid tutorials, right? Because it's so heartbreaking when I see people who like they straight up been lied to. They don't know. Again, it's the whole weightlifting thing, right? They don't know what they're lifting, and because no one told them, and they thought they were doing well, and they aren't. It's hard to know how to do that, right? I've asked people, other professionals, how do you deal with students like that? And some are like, yeah, that's why I don't do portfolio reviews. And some are being like, yep, you got to tell them that they're 3-4 years behind schedule. And some are like, yeah, I just tell them they're doing great. Tricky stuff. I think I'm going to mess this guy up a little bit more. I think we're going to add some asymmetry to him. Yeah, even more asymmetry. Let's do it. I find that if you can sculpt something well with the clay tubes, or like this one here, the FN tubes, again from the very expensive $1 Flipmo's brush kit, then if you can sculpt something with these tubes, then you really control sculpting, because this is difficult stuff to get right, because you have to really understand flow and anatomy and design and really learning how to control shapes, which is hard. So if you know how to sculpt something nice with clay brushes and such, that's fine. But if you know how to use, like the clay build-up brush, it's such a gentle, nice brush to use. But if you know how to do it with this, yeah, pretty good spot. I made a rake brush recently as well. I'm gonna try to find that brush, because that was a pretty cool brush. It's a, let me just see if I can load this in here. I basically made a damn standard rake brush. It might not be any good, but regardless, I made it. I like making my own brushes because I really control what I'm doing them. And some of them are not very good. Most of them aren't very good. But you know, if 1 out of 5 are decent, then hey, that's cool. All right, let's try this one. It's called a damn rake because I took the damn standard brush and I just duplicated it around in Photoshop and set an all to add, so that now we get damn standard but as a rake, and I call it damn rake. Very, very creative, but it's a pretty cool one. It's a bit like the rake brush, the default rake brush, the one I believe Ryan Kingsland made, and yeah, it just has a bit more variation. The rake brush is also cool. This is just a different take on it. Just gives you a bit of a different texture. I think I want to do this here as this brush here as like a build up as well. I think that would be cool. How do you find inspiration for solo projects? That's a tricky one. Man, that really just depends from person to person. I find inspiration by honestly I just do a lot of projects. I just doodle a lot in ZBrush. I sit down one evening and I just have fun in ZBrush. And if I like the project, that usually ends up as an actual project. If I don't like the project, it will just end up in my work in progress folder forever. I'm sure there are better ways of doing that, but that's how I do it. Basically, it's a numbers game. The Kaiju, for instance, if you guys have seen that one, I showed it off with some streams on my social media and such. That started off just as a sculpt. I was recovering from surgery this spring, and I was just sculpting in ZBrush, just having fun with that. And I was like, damn, I like this one. It's a cool one. And then I just started sculpting him up, and he ended up as the biggest tutorial I've ever done. So that was pretty cool. Of course, it took a long time, right? But it's that's how I do that. I kind of like this damn brush, this damn rake brush. I don't think it's finished yet, or I think I might need some variation too, because it's only subtractive, which is cool because you do get a specific feel for it. But I think I need to do something which is a bit additive as well. Bonjour, everyone. Well, bonjour to you too. What should we say in Norwegian? God dag. Or today, I guess, god kveld. I'm just trying to add some directionality here with the damn brush as well, the damn rake. God kveld, god kveld. I really like adding directionality to my sculpts. I think that can be really fun. It just makes the eye wander a bit, because I get to just basically force your eye to go in a certain way. You do also get this cool texture here as well. It looks almost like skin as well. It's not really intended to look like that, but that is what it is. Bit of a happy accident there. I really try to work with the flow of the body as well. I think the problem I have is that I have so little inspiration for my solo projects that they end up just being studies. In that case, I recommend stepping outside for a bit, to be honest, and getting a bit of a break from projects or from your studies. It's really important that you find the projects to be fun. If you're only doing projects if you're only doing studies, that is not good, because you need to like anatomy studies is only one part of the equation, right? I think it's a really good idea to then play a good video game, go to the cinema, and go to a museum. If you have a good figurative museum around you, go for it. If there are often a lot of good museums and for figure sculpting in cities. In London, we have the V&A. In Copenhagen, you have the Glyptotek, which is fantastic as well. I went there a lot when I was in Copenhagen, just looking at all the Roman busts and Rodin and all that good stuff. So find something that actually inspires you, and then build that in 3D. I think it's really important that you find something that actually inspires you. I don't think ArtStation or Pinterest is enough for that. I think you need to find something that's external. Like a movie or video game is perfectly valid. You can be like, well, I played Tomb Raider, I want to recreate a character from Tomb Raider. That's fine, right? There are so many ways to do that. But I do think at that point you need an external inspiration. I really think there is a diminishing returns about just being online with things. It's the whole thing, like touch grass, go outside, take a breather, go around the city, listen to music, listen to the city, and just not just sit in front of a computer. And yeah, anatomy studies are important, of course they are, but they're not the whole picture. It's really, really, really important to go out and do something else than just studies. Like doing projects is really, really, really important. If you don't do projects, then you will only have a fraction of the skills needed. It's really important that you take a study or you take a character, even a doodle like this, right? We're spending like an hour and a half on this now. Take a doodle like this, retopologize it, reproject it, extract the displacement map from it, throw him into Arnold, render that, take him into Painter, do some texture painting on him, and then learn from that, right? If it turns out well, if it turns out to be a good project, turns out well, then throw him in a portfolio. Great. If it turns out to be absolute hottest garbage you've ever seen, hit the delete key, right? Or save a render in your garbage folder and being like, yeah, let's not do that again, right? And that's fine. Like it's fine if it doesn't turn out well. But the thing is, you need to get comfortable with the process of building project. You just have to, because the moment you're working on a portfolio, you need to get to a level where you can basically hit the ground running. If you're doing a portfolio piece and you're struggling with the technicals, you're going to have just a really, really hard time. Like if you're doing a portfolio piece for something like this, for instance, and you don't know how to reliably extract a displacement map, I mean, then you're just not going to make it at this time then, because this is something like there are too many variables. Then you have the variables of the technical workflow, you have the variables of the clean modeling, you have the variable of you need to make something that looks good as well. So that's what I mean. Figure out what level you're at, and then build projects from there. But yeah, go outside, go to museums. I think that's museums are amazing. I every time I go to a museum if it's for painting as well, I feel so inspired afterwards. Same with a good video game as well, or a good movie as well. I love that. I went to the exhibition. There was one in London some weeks ago now for the Frankenstein movie, and really inspiring just seeing that. Frankenstein was amazing. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was so cool. I was very pleasantly surprised by Frankenstein. I also thought it looked really good. I thought it was just a fantastic film. And guys, don't forget our Black Friday sale. Tons of cool tutorials on sale, like 50% off Introduction to Sculpting, where I go through pretty much everything I know about sculpting. This is a course where you learn how to do this guy from scratch, and along with tons of other sculpting concepts as well, like gesture and appeal and high frequency and all sorts of different things. So I highly recommend you check out some of our tutorials there if you are interested in hearing me talk a lot about sculpting in a more structured way than my rants here about schools and portfolio pieces. Are portfolios of recreations as helpful as original works? Depends what you're doing, to be honest. I think original works is often a really bad idea when it comes to portfolio pieces, because that means that you have to concept yourself, and unless you're a concept artist, I think that's not a particularly good idea. I think it's often a really good idea to find existing concept art or find something that you really like and trying to recreate that. I think one of the biggest mistakes people who build their portfolios would make is to try to concept from scratch. Like this here is concept from scratch and he looks okay. But if I were to do this for a portfolio, I would have 100% in every single case used existing concept art, because if you're going to be a particular production artist, you are not being judged on your ability to produce concept art. And that means that if you are now trying to do concept art, you're just going to fall flat on your face, because concept art is not just trying to make something look cool. Concept art is a whole different thing. Figure out, find somebody who's already solved the problems you want to do design-wise, and then get permission to build a piece. Or if it's for a video game or something, like, you could build fan art around that. I really don't think that's a bad idea. I personally think fan art is a cool idea, as long as it's tastefully done in a portfolio. It shows also that, let's say you're doing like Harry Potter fan art or something, right? And you're applying to work on a Harry Potter game. People are like, well, this guy or this gal can just jump into the project right away. I really don't think there is any benefit to doing your own original concept art or your own original designs, unless you want to show that off as a specific skill. But in nearly all cases, that is not a skill that you need to show off, because there's a big difference between a production artist and a designer. In nearly every single case, that is going to harm you quite significantly. And I say that as somebody has reviewed a lot of portfolios. There are very few good original concept pieces in a student portfolio, and there are very, 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 like, a lot of portfolios that are sunk by trying to do everything themselves. Just find some cool concept art, recreate that, keep it simple. Unless you want to be a concept artist, obviously you've got to concept up stuff then. But basically, if you want to be a character artist, you're not going to go in as a concept sculptor in nearly every single case, right? That's something that often comes later. Sure, if you are excellent at concepting something up as well, go for it. But man, you got to be excellent in so many different things, right? You got to be good at coming up with the idea. You got to be good at the anatomy, at the posture, at the color theory, and the reference boards. There are so many things you need to be good at. Just find something that's existing, and just keep it simple. Your future self would thank you so much. So often, the issue you're having in 3D is down to reference. Like, it's so many of the issues people are having. I see this with the mentees I have as well. So many issues are down to not using reference correctly or not having the correct references. And that can be the case if you're sculpting something that's more like this. Is not particularly advanced, right? This more advanced would be if this guy had clothing and everything, right? And it's a full body. But even then, it's a hard problem to solve. If you're doing something like this, but you're freestyling the whole thing, you're just going to be a really hard time. Are there any cool games to play at the moment? I'm playing Kingdom Come 2. I started that when I was recovering from surgery in February. I hadn't played it since March, and I just got into it this week again with some of the DLC. I really like it. I think Kingdom Come 2 is one of the best RPG games I've ever played. Absolutely insane work. It's so elaborate and so well done, and just unlike anything I've ever played. I also played Expedition 33 as well. Really enjoyed that one. So it's hard for me to have a game of the year, but it would be those two because I can't choose because they're so different and so amazing, both of them. Definitely some of the best games I've ever played in that, not even in that genre, like overall in that. I also just finished Silent Hill 2 as well. That was, I wasn't going to say it was fun because it's scary, but it was a really good game. I really enjoyed Silent Hill 2. I thought it was fantastic. I also started Silksong as well. Got quite far in Silksong, and then I realized that I just wasn't having fun, so I stopped playing Silksong. It's a fantastic game, but my God, it wasn't that it was just too hard. It was just too punishing. It just wasn't. It's one of those I just getting quite far. I got stuck in a boss that wasn't even particularly difficult, and I was like, man, I just don't enjoy this. I'm just gonna not play this again. So I deleted it and didn't bother picking that up again. I got to a point if I'm not enjoying something, I'll just stop it. I'm reading a lot of books, and I used to always finish my books. If I don't enjoy the book now, I'll just stop the book. I don't care. If I don't have time for that anymore. If I'm not enjoying a movie, I'll just stop the movie. I don't think there's any point in pursuing something that I'm not enjoying anymore. Because that's just a little silly. Yeah, Dark Souls is a tricky one. I like Dark Souls 3. I don't like Dark Souls 1 and 2. I love Elden Ring. I like Bloodborne. And I love Sekiro. Sekiro is one of my favorite games of all time. I think that's fantastic. But it's the thing with those games, I actually have a video in the works, which may or may not happen at some point, which is about how I got good at 3D by playing Dark Souls, is that those games are, like with also, of course, with Silksong as well, like they're literally something you have to learn. You have to learn how to play them. It's not like you play Ninja Gaiden or something like that and you just kind of play and you have fun. No, you got to learn the systems in a whole different way than you got to learn regular games. And if you learn them, then they're fine, right? They're still challenging, but they're fine. But at the same time, you also reach a point where you're like, I don't care about learning something like this. I could spend this time learning how to play the piano, or just spend time with my girlfriend instead. You reach a point where that's just video games are just video games. That said, though, Expedition 33, my God, what a game. I really like the visuals. I still no idea what the story was about. I finished the story and watched a video about the story. I'm like, man, I don't. This is just pretty wild. It's one of those. It's almost hard to spoil it because it's like, all right, cool. That was a lot of stuff happened there. Kingdom Come is more linear in that sense because you're just a blacksmith who just bonks on some metal and now you have swords. I also got Anno 117. I really like these games. They just work from my brain. I'm not particularly good at them, but they work from my brain regardless. I really like the Anno games. I like Age of Empires. I like Age of Empires 4 a lot. I like strategy games. I like Civ a lot. Played Civ 5 again for the first time in like 10 years. Really fun. I really like that. Again, I'm not very good. I played those games a lot, and I think I won like 1 or 2 games. Because I don't really like finishing them. I just like starting them. And I don't even think that's like an avoidance thing that I don't like finishing things. I just think those games are just only fun in the beginning. And then they just become a bit boring after a while. I've not played Total War Warhammer. I haven't played any Total War games in general. They look pretty good. I played one called Against the Storm, which is really fun. It was a city builder, but it's both basically only focused on the beginning parts of the city building. I'm starting to think that I should save this guy as well. I have not saved this guy. I just have a giant folder where I put my sketches. Should probably do something more than that. Not just have a giant folder. I'm going to put this in my downloads folder. Call him head guy. Maybe not that. I'm going to call him thug. Yeah, don't do what I'm doing. Actually name your files. But you reach a point where I've been doodling enough now, where I've been doodling for quite some time, and when it comes to ZBrush, if I lose this guy, I lose this guy. That's fine. Have you tried painting? Interested to see how the skills carry over. I used to paint a lot, like digitally before. I was basically between when I was a teenager if I should go into 3D or if I should go into concept art and illustration. So I really enjoyed it. I really like painting is a lot of fun. One of my favorite things is actually texture painting. I think it carries over to some degree. I don't think it carries over one to one. What carries over would be obviously color theory. That would carry over quite well because color theory is color theory. It's great. Understanding of reference obviously carries over really well as well. But a lot of things obviously don't as well because it is a completely different medium. It's one of those that's not going to harm you, but if you have an excellent sense of observation, then that's awesome. The thing with painting, right, is that there's so many similarities because this is fundamentally constructing something. When you're painting or drawing something, that's fundamentally constructing things as well. When you're painting light and color, a lot of that is essentially the same concepts as how you're doing this in 3D as well. At least, when it comes to the math of things. So I think if you actually really understand a lot of the fundamentals, I think a lot of those things do genuinely carry over quite well. But it depends what you're doing, right? I am going to mess this guy up because I can. That's a cool thing about not being attached to your work is that you can, like, if this guy here turns into absolute hot garbage, that's fine, right? Like, it doesn't really matter because what's the consequence? This is not a portfolio piece. This is not a project. I'm just having fun with this. So I like to just mess things up. I'm just going to do this and see where we can take him. Just trying to stylize him a little bit. Like absolute worst case, it turns out that I don't like it, and that's fine. So it's like, what do you have to lose? I think when you're learning how to sculpt, just being a bit fearless, I think it's a really good idea. Where absolute worst case, you screw up your sculpt, but in a lot of cases, you can also just save it, right? You can just save your sculpt before you do this. You do this on layer, you can clone him around, like whatever, right? Like who cares? As long as you're having fun with this, that's something you can do. I'm just going to try to make him a little bit more geometric, actually. Maybe this doesn't work at all. Nope. That doesn't work. That's fine. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, I'm not going to deliberately try to destroy him or anything, right? I'm not going to just throw him in a fire, but I'm also not going to be precious whatsoever. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine. Just giving you some traps. I just use lifting terminology. Traps, slats, delts, pecs. Keep it simple. I don't see any point in going too in-depth when it comes to, latissimus dorsi, it's the lats. No one is going to confuse that. If you tell them that the lats needs more work, every sensible person is going to be like, clearly he means the latissimus dorsi, because there is no other one. And if somebody goes, do you mean bicep brachii or bicep femoris? You tell them to be like, shh, be quiet. That's obviously, they mean the bicep in the arm. They would have said the hamstrings or the hammies if they were referring to the other one. Sorry if this is being asked a lot, but when you're sketching with no reference, what are the most important things to look out for when it comes to good character design? There are two main parts to this. The first part is that you need to have a basis in anatomy. If you don't have a basis in anatomy here, this is just not going to work. This here is fundamentally an anatomical guy, right? It's nothing too fancy thing. Nothing fancy is happening here. This is just a guy, and that's it, right? In terms of anatomy, this is entirely a solved thing. There's absolutely nothing unique about this guy, which is great. Now, that is a prerequisite for good design. Good anatomy is absolutely a prerequisite, because if you don't have that, we aren't even having a conversation. Now, that said, of course, you need good design as well. And what I'm looking for here is generally like proportions, right? Like the ratio between the different proportions here. For instance, here, I deliberately moved the jawline, the jaw here further down. I'm deliberately making the ears a bit smaller. I'm deliberately making the forehead a bit smaller as well. And I'm just trying to keep things quite simple when it comes to this. This is the more technical stuff, right? When it comes to design, trying to keep the shapes nice and clean and such. These are the technical things. You also need to understand, what are you actually making? Like, who is this person? In this case here, I don't know. Like, I'm just doodling, right? But this is something you have to figure out. Like, even if you're just sketching with no reference or something, at least, you know, if something more serious than just this guy here, you got to figure out, like, what is his age? Like, where does he live? Like, what climate does he live in? You don't have to be like, does he live in Hackney, or does he live in like San Francisco or in Oslo, right? Like, you just like, does he live in a swamp, or where does he live? And figure these things out, because these things are important to figure out. If you don't figure these things out, if you don't know where he lives, how could you then know what, how can you know what you're making if you don't know these things? So that's cool. So this is really, really, really important to figure out. You need to know who it is you are making. And then you need to understand some, like here, for instance, I'm trying to taper him up. So fundamentally what I'm trying to do is this, and I'm doing this, right? I'm just really trying to get in here in a shape here that goes like so. And yeah, these are some things that I'm really thinking about. I'm actually thinking of getting some reference here now. All right, I now have some reference. Let's see if I have a purif open. I do have a purif open. That's pretty cool. All right. You know, I think I'm going to actually do some poly painting on this fella. Let's try to do that. I'll get a generic brush here. Then we'll do this. And then I'm going to poly paint. Can do something like that. Can fill in the teeth as well. All right, and then enable symmetry. And then we're gonna just poly paint this dude up a little bit. Color spray. And then disable this, and we're gonna have to set the alpha to, set this to 50, can't have that, can't see anything then. And then I'm just gonna poly paint this guy. Poly painting is just so much fun. I really just enjoy this one. As a project, just for fun, ever turn into a portfolio piece for you? Yeah, you know what? I keep saying that you should do the you should do projects and do portfolio pieces. Honestly, most of my portfolio pieces are projects. I just upgraded. So I'm just adding some variation here, you know, on him in general. Just going over here with the brush and just playing around with this. Maybe I can actually color his teeth as well. I have to see what this model here allows me to do. Probably make some polygroups based on this. Hey, there we go. Cool. So now I can do his teeth. Sweet. So let's do that. do this, and I'm going to set this to, actually I'm just going to subdivide this guy. And then we can make these a little bit yellow. Something like that. Cool. Yeah, it's funny, right, how it goes when it comes to portfolio pieces and projects and such, because really, yeah, most of my portfolio pieces were just projects. But they also, like, it's a different time, right? Like, it's when I started, it's not like it's going to be like it's easier or harder now. It's a different time, and the projects now need to be better than they were back then. But at the same time, it's a little easier to build projects now than it was back then as well. Like back then, it would be around like 2014 and such, so just over 10 years ago. Simply because there is just some inflation in skills. There's more competition now, but also, like, there was no flip normals back then, right? Like, I had to learn everything myself. There were of course some tutorials, but it was just a lot less tutorials back then. The software was worse. If you wanted to texture paint, how would you texture paint? There wasn't really any painter. You had Mari, but that didn't have layers, right? It was just a nightmare. It was just really, really, really difficult to do anything that was high quality. No GPU rendering. Rendering was hard. Arnold was just coming out. Like, it was just terrible times for 3D compared to what it is now. 3D is just significantly easier now and harder. It's harder because there are more software now. It's easier because a lot more things are handled by the computer directly, such as like PBR shading, right? That's just a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier to work with shading now than it was back then, because energy is balanced automatically for you. You don't have to worry about these things, right? So pros and cons. But there are also a lot more people applying for jobs now too. Computers are also more powerful now than they were back then, which means that you can do work on a more low-end PC, but at the same time, the software also draws more power as well, so you need more powerful PCs. So you kind of win this one. But one of the things that was really, really annoying back in the day was actually just rendering, straight up just rendering things, because everything was, the computers were just so, like, it was so low powered, or they were so slow at rendering that everything was hard to do. It was legitimately just really difficult to get anything done, because iteration time was so low, because you had to just render, wait minutes to see the render. Now you see it all in real time. Like, we couldn't even see PBR shading right in the viewport. So that's an old man Henning story now, but I think that's just different times. That's all I'm trying to say. That's something that's really important to keep in mind, that you need to take advice from people who are current with things, which is sometimes really, really hard with, particularly with university teachers and such, that a lot of those guys, they graduated in like 2003. They haven't worked in a relevant job since and such, and they don't really understand the reality of the industry. So it's really important that you get advice from somebody who actually knows what's up when it comes to things, which is why it's so important with a skill audit. And again, a skill audit for somebody who knows what they're doing, and not a fellow student and not a professor. Somebody who is actively working in professionally with the job, within the job you want to work in. All right, so I am going to end the stream pretty soon because I've been going for 2 hours and 9 minutes now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me of those. And I accidentally made Shrek again. It happens. It happens, guys. This is not Brexit Shrek this time. This is... I'm not sure what Shrek this is this time. But my old Shrek was what if Shrek voted for Brexit. I'm not sure what this guy can be. Reform Shrek, basically. I am very sorry. This was actually one thing I really enjoyed in Marmoset. I can paint roughness directly, and here I can't, and I missed that. So it's a bit annoying, but it is what it is. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Just remember, we have a killer Black Friday sale ongoing where we have tons of products at a very nice discount. So yeah, check that out. Link in the description. Oh, don't want to get banned from YouTube. And yeah, we have tons of cool stuff like this tutorial here. We learn how to basically do the character I did now, just full on for more of a production as well. Going through all the steps, high frequency, retopology, UVs, all that good stuff. But yeah, cool. Then that's it. I'll probably be streaming more on Monday. And then, yeah, see you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining, guys. When does the sale end? It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember, but it's one of those. But yeah, cool. See you guys soon.